Hello, so today I'm going to talk a little bit about what PTSD is, how it operates inside of the mind, inside of the brain, inside of the body, and what we can do about it. So very often I find that the way in which we define problems actually can either feed into the problem and make the problem itself worse, or if we can find a better way, a new way of defining the problem, we can ameliorate the situation and start to tackle the problem head on. So if I was going to describe somebody what PTSD is, and they had no psychological background and they'd not been through counselling because they've not been through PTSD themselves, I would say it's a little bit like a traumatic event and all the chaos and violence and ugliness and unpleasantness of the traumatic event or scenario, in the case of complex PTSD, kind of possesses the individual, to use slightly superstitious and religious language, and then the individual walks around possessed by the event or the people involved in the event or the scenario in which the event took place. It kind of gets inside of the system and lingers there. So if the person was shot at, the inner self kind of shoots at itself. If the person was beaten up, the inner self kind of beats itself up. If the person was kept in a situation and psychologically and physically tortured, then the inner self isolates the self and tortures physically and psychologically. Physically will be, metaphorically through the use of drugs and self-destructive behaviours, and psychologically through the use of visual, auditory, kinesthetic flashbacks and emotional flashbacks. So it is like being possessed. The chaos of a traumatic, violent event, that shitstorm that is taking place outside of you, possesses you, and then you walk around with the shitstorm within you. That's how I would describe it. Somebody who didn't know much about PTSD or complex PTSD. What's actually happening? What are these shitstorms? Like electrical storms inside of the brain? What is it that's actually happening? Well, my limited understanding, and this isn't an area of psychology that I know that much about, but the biological level of what's going on is something that is referred to as the dysregulation of the HPA axis. This is the way in which the hypothalamus, the adrenal gland and the pituitary gland cooperate with each other to secrete a cocktail of hormones that regulate your emotional state, your levels of arousal or relaxation, your stress levels, and this kind of thing. They basically control how you feel. Why? Well, in brutally simple terms, we can almost think of the HPA axis as one of the functions that it has is a threat recognition mechanism. So the HPA axis talks to this itself. It perceives a potential threat in the environment, and then it's the onboard computer that processes that threat and then decides what to do about it. But not at the level of taking action, but at the level of, well, what biochemical cocktail should I release right now into the body, into this human, that gives them the best chance of survival? Well, and we evolved for immediate threat, not long-term exposure to the sword of Damocles that's perpetually hanging over you but that never drops. But, oh shit, there's a fucking lion, run away. Oh shit, there's an enemy from another tribe, smash his head in with a rock. Immediate, and it's over, and it's done. And that's how we've evolved over millions of years. So modern life, with all of its multiple traumas and multiple threats, is deeply confusing and offsetting to the HPA axis. And combat zones, and even just the process of going through the military training is traumatic enough and unnatural enough to put people into a state of PTSD. I was reading a piece of research yesterday that actually said in the military there's more PTSD outside of combat zones than there is within them. So we've really got to review, if that has even a grain of truth to it, we really need to review the way we commonly think about this issue, the way we frame this issue, and the story we're telling ourselves to be true about what it means to have PTSD and how we treat it. Okay, so let's go back to this thing. If the HPA axis is functioning in a logical way, what it is doing is it's saying, there's a fucking tiger, release a load of chemicals that allow us to run like fuck, with no care for pulled ligaments, with no care for even broken bones, because between a broken bone in the process of fleeing a predator and having your face ripped in half, your body's going to make a decision and go, yeah, you can